past lessons. And this is the current scenario, the Web 2.0 phenomena with 5 characteristics: mobility, connectivity, social network, search engines, and information sharing. And of course, all these lead to really exponential user-generated content, and it's a very good platform for 21st century skills. However, we would like to caution ourselves that a lot of the content available is pretty much unorganized and generated by non-subject matter experts, and obviously lack of instructional design content. So bearing in mind these challenges and lessons that we have learned from the past, and with the current scenario with Web 2.0 being very prevalent, how do we actually use this towards transforming our e-content? So let's look at some of the highlights of the lessons learned. I have summarized the various challenges into these 6 broad challenges across, and these challenges are found across the different phases of e-content. Essentially, there continues to be a lack of e-content experts out there, and I will share with you what is meant by this. And while we believe that technology has advanced tremendously and have changed our lives, technology at the same time poses limitations. And perhaps that's because it's attributed to rapid technology changes, prohibitive cost, and throughout the phases, you notice that users' expectations on what interactivity is changes. With each technology, with each phase, their expectation on interactivity changes. And conventional instruction still dominates advancement in spite of advancement of technology. So these are the common challenges that we refer to, and how do we overcome these challenges in our effort to transform our e-content development. Quite recently, I was listening to the new CEO for Hewlett-Packard, Leo Apotheker, in his inaugural speech as a CEO. He's a very new CEO to HP, and I was quite intrigued by the comments he made about the role of ICT, and I'm borrowing his statements that ICT in those different phases of technology, especially in the earlier phases, was merely a tool for productivity. We wanted to generate report faster. We want our children to learn differently. Hopefully that they will learn better, but although that outcome hasn't really been seen. So that's the tool for ICT as a tool for productivity. But as we move forward with the Web 2.0 phenomena, ICT is not merely a tool for productivity anymore, it is a tool for collaboration. I'm sure 3/4 of the members in this room have iPhones, right? So that in itself is a signal that ICT is a tool for collaboration, because iPhone is a tool for collaboration. It's a device for collaboration. Okay? So in our effort to transform our e-education approach, we are taking this role of ICT not just as a tool for productivity, but it is just as well a tool for collaboration. Hence, we developed the prototype Next-Gen e-content. To us, it is an approach to optimization of ICT for e-content. To do that, we first developed the process standards for the development of next-gen e-content. We looked at various standards around the world, but we must realize this, that there really isn't any process standards. There are a lot of technical standards And so we need to develop the process standards for our own requirements, and so we did. But it remains a dynamic document because as we move on, we will discover a lot of areas that we will refer to enhance these process standards. And essentially, the process standards is a framework that guides content developers and educators in e-content design and development. I will share with you this framework very broadly afterwards, but you will be given the address should you be interested in looking at these process standards. And we have very clear targeted outcome that we would like to inculcate the 21st century skills amongst our users, and not only our students. That's why we have used the term users, because users here refer to community members like parents, the teachers, administrators, as well as the students. Now, we also take note in the development of our prototype that we are now educating the Gen Z. Gen Z refers to children who were born between 1990s to the 2000s. These children essentially did not know what the world was without the internet. In our schools, we have teachers who are in Gen X, okay, and students who are in Gen Z. And guess where our content is? Yeah. So we have to deliver content of the 18th century, 19th century, because that's knowledge. But we have to deliver it according to the requirements or to the orientation of the Gen Z students. And that's the challenge. So what's the prototype ought to be? Yeah? To deliver knowledge and content meeting the orientation of the Gen Z students. In Malaysia, we have in 19th century school buildings. We have 20th century teachers and 21st century learners. So that's a challenge. So I'm sure this is a challenge for most countries, yes, because most of our teachers belong to Gen X. Yeah? So not all buildings are new buildings. So we have this common expression that we have 19th century school buildings, 20th century teachers, and 21st century students. So how do we use e-content to actually converge these different century groups of people that are supposed to deliver and share knowledge and education? So that's a challenge also. So we take that into consideration when we're developing the next gen e-content prototype, and how the standards actually ensure that all these requirements are met. Okay, so very broadly, this is the flow of our process standards. It is presented in a linear fashion, but it does not mean that it is linear at all. So if you can see that the users, referral to the users are at the pre-development stage, development stage, and post-development, because when we talk about users, this process is almost cyclical in nature, that the users must be referred to at the different stages of the development process. So every phase of the development has different sets of strategies, but however, this is the broad framework. But if you go to the website into the process standards, you will find that each step will have different attributes to sort of guide the developers, the project owners, and all the parties involved. But we still refer to the educational courseware standards developed by the MOE for the technicalities. The educational courseware standards are the technical specifications, while the process standards itself is standards guiding the parties involved in the development of the e-content, of the necessary steps, strategies, and principles that they can follow. Okay, so I will share with you here the set of principles that we perceive to be strategies in optimization of ICT in the e-content design and development. So these are the few ones, and I'm very, very glad to hear yesterday there were presentations which touch on some of these criteria or principles that we are putting in place. For example, the first one, We are now focusing on e-content, using ICT to develop e-content only for hard-to-teach concepts, formula, topics, or subjects. What are hard-to-teach concepts? Concepts that are not easily taught in a conventional way. Concepts that are not tangible. Formulas that are abstract. So ICT should be used to assist teachers to deliver this, which otherwise conventionally will be very difficult for them. And these we engage the users. We asked them, we presented to them topics, and we got feedback from them on which topics are hard to teach and what they would like us to convert into e-content. And alternative methodologies to memorization, drilling, and practice. So there's nothing wrong with memorization. I, as an educator, believe that some memorization is important, drilling is essential, but perhaps ICT should be used for alternative methodologies. We have conventional teaching to promote memorization, drilling, and practice, but ICT should be used for alternative methodologies. And we are not developing lessons, rather our e-content refers to activities. Activities that can be used for different parts of the lesson. And higher order thinking skills will be promoted through the lesson via the activities, because teachers would have to decide which part of her lesson she will use or he will use this content for. It's not the content itself that will decide. That's the role of the teacher. So that enables him or her to apply that higher order thinking skill. And that it is designed in such a way that teacher can generate their own content. So there's another term for this, that generative content. I think that's another presenter also mentioned about this yesterday, that content should be able to generate more content. So it's designed also in that way, the next gen e-content. And this is very interesting. I mentioned just now about the Web 2.0 phenomena, that collaboration. So we take that into consideration by incorporating social media sites in the content, so that students will, users will be able to collaborate and share, and also that content can be used for other topics, subjects, and levels. In the e-content previously developed, separate content was, separate subjects or topics were developed separately. In this case, the next-gen e-content, the same content can be used for other topics, levels, or subjects, the repurposing element, and that it shouldn't be too customized to the Malaysian environment, because for the purpose of sharing across region, it should have cross-border appeal in its design. And it should be able to operate on various platforms, on taking into consideration the mobility devices. So we are referring to the one-source multiple-use model, or OSMU. So this is how we feel the principles that have been put in place in developing the next-gen e-content would address some of the lessons learned presented earlier. And still, there remain some very difficult challenges, because in both the demand side is the side where the users or project owners actually is making the request for the content, and still there's also e-content experts limitation in that side. Even the users and project owner has limitation in terms of content, e-content experts. And of course, the supply side, the companies that develop the content clearly have challenges. Yeah, they have the ID, and you notice that we have also introduced the creative director, because we have a huge creative content companies that we realize in our engagement with them play a very critical role in making the e-content engaging. So that is very important to us, because we want to increase the usage of the e-content, and if we make it creatively enough, it could be engaging. So we have put that element of creative director and subject matter expert, or SME, which focuses on the accuracy of the subject matter, and content developer, which actually executes the development processes. So under the gaps, on the demand side, clearly project owners and users, they rely a lot on the content developers, because they have challenges in terms of knowledge in the media infusion in lessons, and also in the supply